Vamos lá. Você está ao vivo. Maravilha. Estamos ao vivo no YouTube e na Twitch. Só esperando começar o Campfire. Faltam 9 minutinhos. Vamos ver o que a temporada 5 nos aguarda. Aliás, o que nos aguarda na temporada 5. Melhor dizendo. Já vou aqui pro cantinho da tela.
We've been saying this whole time that hell is coming. Now, hell is here.
It's something that's always present in a Diablo title, and we wanted to make sure that for Diablo 4, returning to hell was a special moment. We referenced the endgame cinematic with Prava and Inarius taking the fight to hell at the end of the game.
Tá muito
We
baixo.
wanted to capture that experience, that sensation of battling through.
Cara, ó, tá no máximo aqui
In the Infernal Hordes, they're going to go into
e
this
tá no
mode,
máximo
battle
aqui.
waves of demons and be able to
Extremamente baixo.
of the game experience as you play.
Espero que
Those of you who have
no
joined us since base game and throughout the
espero que na
season
transmissão
know that
mesmo não
there's this
esteja
phenomenon in the world
baixo
that's
assim.
going on called hell tides. Some of you might have noticed that hell tides have been getting a lot worse lately.
And now hell is able to pierce the veil that's holding hell back from fully invading Sanctuary and starting to take root in Sanctuary. And we started by asking ourselves some questions. What is the state of Sanctuary right before the Vessel of Hatred happens? How has hell changed now that Mephisto isn't there anymore? What are the demons up to?
Where is Mephisto? Does he have anything to do with this? Or is this just hell rising of its own accord as the prophecy proclaimed?
And so we thought to ourselves, how can we make things
Deram uma
even worse
aumentada.
for the people in Sanctuary?
In this season, you'll very much get to dive into those mysteries with some unlikely allies and really get to the bottom of what's happening. So in this season, we play a lot with the notion of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. How far would you go to save Sanctuary, to save your world? What price would you pay? Would you sacrifice your soul for this? You're gonna meet a guy named Lochran, who at first seems sort of usual, but you're gonna quickly realize that something is off, that something is a little strange with this guy.
So Lochran and Estelle are your allies, and they're going to help you return to hell. Both of them are experts in demons, and they're going to use that knowledge to help you return to hell and become more powerful to be able to battle the Infernal Hordes.
The Infernal Hordes is a new endgame activity in Diablo 4. It's primarily a wave-based activity. You're going to be fighting wave after wave of demon forces in hell.
So if any of you have ever played wave-based gameplay before, you'll know that things escalate.
We've got meteor strikes and all sorts of things that try to keep you on your toes.
One thing the Infernal Hordes does differently is the notion of infernal offers.
In between each wave, you'll make a choice. You'll be granted an infernal offer, and by choosing one of 3 of these offers, you're going to change the game mode in some way, a positive and a negative.
You can imagine from the depths of hell, these hands rise out and offer you both a boon and a bane, a kiss and a curse.
And this is a temptation that the Fell Council is making to you. And in this temptation, you're offered more power, but that power comes at a cost. And so you get to choose, which temptations you're going to pursue during your infernal run, and then customize your experience from there. One of the guiding principles of this game mode is replay. It's an in-game mode that we want to make sure you're playing over and over again. So we really wanted to create a broad set of enemies for you to fight during this mode.
We've got many demons to choose from in the lexicon of Diablo's monster families, but we're also going to see some other foes you might not expect.
There are going to be certain types of enemies like goatmen who have been banished to hell that have now rallied to Mephisto and fight by his side. And even some unlucky souls that marched on hell from the Cathedral of Light have now been revived in hell and fight against you alongside the demons.
Basically, everything that hell has to throw at you, we're throwing it at you this season.
The Infernal Hordes has been built with multiplayer in mind, but multiplayer is not required. We want to make sure that solo players still have a very fun experience in the Infernal Hordes. Now that said, if you roll in with a party, you're going to have a lot of fun.
This game mode is going to appear in the Eternal and in the Seasonal realm, and that means that once the season is over, it's here to stay.
The Infernal Hordes is unlocked.
Quase, tá quase.
So Really what you need to do to access it is earn your way up to World Tier 3 and then complete an eternal quest line that takes you back to Hell and then unlocks the Infernal Hordes. For World Tier 1 and 2 players, we've built out a seasonal progression that'll help them become more powerful in order to be able to confront the Infernal Hordes. First is you can earn reputation, and that reputation applies to a reputation track that earns lots of really cool rewards that'll make you more powerful as you progress onto World Tier 3. The other thing we've built are micro-dungeons called Hell Breaches that offer a glimpse at the Infernal Hordes mechanics. And they give you a chance to learn the mechanics before you confront the Infernal Hordes at World Tier 3.
The final boss in this season is the Fell Council.
And the Fell Council is some familiar faces that you might recognize from Diablo 2.
These were priests of the Zakarum, holy men who were corrupted and basically became vessels of hatred in their own right.
The council members in Diablo 2 tried to help contain Mephisto in his soul stone. And of course, Mephisto being Mephisto, slowly but surely corrupted them. And eventually they had soul stones pierced into their hands and became super powerful. But eventually you overcame them and sent them to hell. Through the course of the story, resummoned them. They've been reborn, slightly new powers, but the same animosity toward you.
What's interesting about this boss encounter is there are 5 council members, but you're only going to fight 3 of them at once.
This allows us to then create many different flavors of the boss fight for the Fell Council. In fact, it's about 10 variations in all. And so every time you go into that council fight, there's a very good chance you're going to have a different fight than the last time you played it. We think it's going to offer a lot of replay for players. What we also introduced during these waves are opportunities for you to earn ether. Earning ether is the resource that you gather during the Infernal Hordes that you can then spend at the end of the activity.
There's going to be a fixed number of waves that you have to defeat, and once you've completed all those waves, then you'll face the Fell Council, defeat them, and collect your treasure.
So upon defeating the Fell Council, the spoils of hell will spawn, and then you consume your burning ether in opening those chests. Now, the trick is, when you are playing through these waves, that's your opportunity to earn as much ether as you can. Different events are going to spawn all throughout the waves, around the periphery of the arena, and it's your job to try and defeat as many of those events as possible to try and gather up all the ether you can. Really skilled players are going to be able to really maximize that ether so they get the biggest payout possible at the end after defeating the Fell Council.
So with this burning ether, you'll be able to get new uniques, you'll be able to get new legendaries, you'll be able to get rare materials, things you might have scoured the whole of Sanctuary for in previous seasons or in the base game, but now we offer it to you here, down in the depths of hell.
A lot of these new uniques and legendaries really build on top of this idea that they've been forged in hell. And so they're going to have unique looks that you can then make into cosmetics to apply wherever you like. They can also have unique VFX and sound effects to really create the sense that they were forged in hell. One particular one that I enjoy using a lot are boots.
Coloquei a tela do trabalho aqui na minha frente, daí eu não preciso desviar muito o olho da tela. Vamos lá. Minutinho para começar.
That's just one sample of the types of powers we're exploring.
So death in the Infernal Hordes is quite a big deal. You're returning to the realm of hatred where Mephisto was born. Like, this has to be a big deal.
In the Infernal Hordes, it's a lot like Nightmare Dungeons. You only get a fixed number of revives in order to be able to get to the end of your run. So at lower difficulties of the Infernal Hordes, you'll get a number of revives shared between your party. But at higher difficulty levels, the game is going to start taking away those revives, and that increases the stakes that you have.
If you die too much, you'll be ejected from the mode. In the Infernal Hordes, we created a lot of new ways for monsters to ambush the players, and so I'm pretty stoked to see how our players respond to these.
The seasonal quest line and the eternal quest line, they have lots of little surprises and twists and turns in them. And there's even some surprises we've buried deep within the Infernal Hordes that hopefully players will have a great time with.
Beleza. Aí, vai começar.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our Season of the Infernal Hordes developer update stream. My name is Marcus Kretz. I'm a community manager here on the Diablo team, and today I'm joined by some very familiar faces. Adam and Adam, welcome to the stream.
Yeah, we did it. We took it over.
We took it over. It's just Adam, it's the Adam and Adam show. Now I don't even have to host.
Yeah, no.
It feels great.
Yeah, and for everyone curious in chat, Adam is not going anywhere. As you all know, there's a ton going on in Diablo. Yeah, Adam Fletcher isn't going
This
anywhere.
one, yes.
Adam Jackson,
I deal with this
Adam
one.
Fletcher. There's a ton going on in Diablo right now. We've had a ton of live streams. There's been so much going on, so it's just a lot easier to share the load amongst all the, the hosting live streams.
we just finished the Spiritborn live stream, so it's been a little crazy, and you know Marcus is here to help out. So you guys may see Marcus more here hosting some live streams in the future. But yeah, I'm not disappearing.
Today, you're acting
Adam
as
is
Colin today.
Yeah. Yeah,
Take over his
exactly.
stuff,
Today I get to pretend I'm Colin.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Some big shoes to fill
O
there.
Adam Fletcher, o Japinha ali, ele era o diretor, ele era
In terms of
o que o
everything
outro é
that's been going on in
agora,
Diablo, we just had our
community
Season of the Infernal
manager.
Hordes PTR.
Agora parece que ele virou
We got
diretor.
a lot of learnings.
Yeah, but we also do have one additional person.
Nada, Lobo, tá tudo sendo
Dan
bufado,
Tanger from
cara.
Albany, New York.
Tá tudo
Dan,
sendo
welcome to the
bufado.
stream.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Doing great.
Good. Good to see you.
See, Dan's in like the Cathedral of Light. We're in like the Burning Hell. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's hot over here.
exactly.
It tracks, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, Dan. And the Season 5 PTR.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of learnings. This was our second PTR for Diablo 4. So we have a ton of feedback to get into, but we also have some notes from the community on the PTR overall and some learnings. So Adam, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, most definitely. You know, this is now our second PTR that we had. We had one for Season 4 and, of course, one now for Season 5. And, you know, we've learned a lot from these PTRs. PTRs are incredibly important.
Falando que aprendem bastante com o
They're really
PTR.
beneficial for the whole entire team.
É muito
here.
benéfico pro
And
jogo.
one thing we heard a lot of feedback, at least from the Season 5 PTR, is obviously as you're playing through a PTR, it's a non-final thing that you're playing. It's still very early on. There are going to be more bugs, more issues just present in the PTR because we are getting something out there a little bit earlier just so we can get feedback in on it. But one thing that I think we most definitely heard from the community is, hey, the tools within PTR at times haven't been the best or the most efficient for players that need to actually test the content that we actually do have. And so one thing that we did want to at least address and highlight and acknowledge is that, you know, we do plan on making the PTR experiences better in the future. We do plan on equipping more tools for players.
Eles vão melhorar a
out there,
experiência
so
do PTR
they're
no
not having
futuro.
to
Porque a
sit there
galera
and
reclamou
grind
que não
out,
tem
you
muitas
know, maybe,
ferramentas
like,
para fazer
all
os
the-
testes, e é
the
verdade.
new legendaries or uniques or something like it, especially in like Season 5, for example. We gave a character copy feature in this one, and then of course we had the boost feature which came back from Season 4. And when you boosted your character, a new character, you would end up getting some of the new legendaries or uniques within Season 5. What happened though is that it wasn't all of them, and then we had players within Season 5 having to actually go out and spend their time that they probably could be testing other things, like trying to find those items. And obviously that's like not the most efficient thing to do. So we do want to, we hear everyone, we acknowledge it, we do want to make the PTR experience better. So I will say that like in future PTRs, and you'll see this gradually over the next couple PTRs, it won't be all of a sudden like things will be completely different, but I do expect like, and players should expect like that we will have better tools for them to properly test as we gradually go through PTRs in the future. And we appreciate everyone like letting us know, like we most definitely hear you guys, and we most definitely want to make that experience better from that. But PTRs have been great. Huge thanks to everyone for jumping in and checking it out for sure. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that feedback is so important. So, you know, increasing, you know, how great these PTRs are is really, really important. And I know for the Season 5 PTR, one of the huge features that we had in there was the Infernal Hordes itself. So for everyone who didn't get a chance to jump into the PTR, Mr. Dan Tangway, can you kind of walk us through what the Infernal Hordes is and what players can expect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you all a quick recap. So,
Vai falar sobre o que é a Ordem Infernal, a gente já sabe.
With push your luck choices in between each of those waves. So imagine waves of monsters coming in, lots and lots of monsters, in fact. And you also have some events, mini events that you can also participate in. Now, in between those waves, you're going to be making what's called the infernal offer, and you're going to pick a boon or a bane, and that's going to change your gameplay for the rest of the run. So it allows you to customize what your infernal run is going to be like. And so we probably see right here, yep, we've got a infernal offer that comes up. So you're going to select one of those, and that will then change, of course, the rest of the run. Now, when you complete the required number of waves, then you're able to go confront the Fell Council, who you can see here. And the Fell Council, as you saw from the video that just came on right before this live stream, are former servants, well, actually current servants of Mephisto that you defeated in Diablo 2 and have now returned, and you must fight them once more. And once you beat them, you're going to be able to spawn what's called the Spoils of Hell. And these are chests that contain a lot of great goodies. And so with that burning aether you've been collecting all through the course of the mode, you're able to choose what kind of spoils you want. You've got spoils of legendaries and uniques, and there's some absolutely great new uniques and legendaries in Season 5, and you can probably farm about half of them, over half of them from the Infernal Hordes. You're also able to spawn spoils of materials and buy into that, and that will get you gem shards, that will get you angel's breath, and of course that'll get you masterworking materials, which you absolutely need to complete your
Masterwork Materials é muito importante, viu? Tomara que dê bastante.
Get a bunch of gold, which, you know, for those folks who are re-rolling their items in order to masterwork them or to enchant their items is going to be hugely beneficial. And then finally, there's a special bonus chest at higher tiers where you can get a guaranteed roll on a greater affix item. And so since that's one of the main chases in the, you know, the final steps of the end game, you know, we wanted to make sure there was an opportunity for players to really, you know, get a little more lucky with it. So final thoughts on the Infernal Hordes. Remember that it unlocks at World Tier 3. You need an Infernal Compass in order to unlock it. And there's 8 levels of difficulty for it. And so, yeah, that's a quick recap.
Awesome. Thanks for walking us through, Dan. Super excited to jump in and try to grab some of those uniques. Now, I know considering the Infernal Hordes was such a big part of PTR, we did have a lot of community feedback with regards to, you know, getting into the mode, and, you know, some of the pacing. So can you walk us through some of those learnings we had based off
Vai falar o que mudou nas Hordas Infernais agora.
So there was a lot of feedback that came in, and so much so that we weren't able to address it all. But we did distill down some big trends and feedback that we were able to tackle. And so the first off is that we wanted to improve access to the Infernal Hordes. So
Vai dropar mais a bússola.
Regularly to test it, and folks who wanted to get into it very quickly couldn't get into it either. So we've pretty much overhauled access to the Infernal Hordes at this point. Compasses still exist, but the drop rates on those have been boosted quite a bit. We want you to earn around 4
Vai
or 5
dropar tires maiores de compasso não, de bússola mais naturalmente, não vai precisar ficar upando.
50% chance to get them from item chests and hell tides, unless it's one of those item chests that costs, you know,
Vai melhorar o
250
acesso
cinders,
à
in which case that's 100%
parada.
chance. I mean, you put in the time, we'll just give it to you. And then, you know, Nightmare Dungeon and Whispers, there's about a 75% chance to get one from a dungeon complete there. You know, Compass tiers
75% de
at
chance
really
até que
high
é bom.
levels, we wanted to make sure drop naturally from high-tiered activities like Nightmare Dungeons and the Pit. And we've also given you a path to just crafting these outright with the Occultists, with Sigil Power and Forgotten Souls. And then finally, you know, it was a bug that the first compass that dropped from the Eternal Quest, it was actually a World Tier 3. And if you were playing World Tier 4, yeah, you had to switch back to actually get in the Infernal Hordes, and that didn't feel great. So we updated that as well.
Beleza.
Moving along, the next big thing that we focused on was combat. The pacing of combat wasn't hitting our goals. And, you know, we had done a lot of internal testing on it. And you know,
Corrigiram
folks
aquele
who
bug
aren't
que os
as
bosses
in-game
ficavam com
focused
sangue
gave us a lot of
enorme.
feedback where, you know, oh, this is super intense. Could we dial it back a little bit? So we did, but then we put it out on PTR and clearly all said, hey, no, we want more. So we're giving you more. The first thing that we did though is we fixed some bugs.
As Hordas Infernais agora, pelo jeito, vão ser mais... Vai ter mais monstros, a densidade vai ser maior e o timer vai ser menor. Então vai ser uma coisa mais gostosa de fazer. Você vai matar mais bicho e vai ser mais rapidinho. Legal. E o patch agora pega o Ether, velho. O Aether, né, que eles chamam ali. Nossa, isso é bom, porque às vezes o Ether caía lá na PQP, você tinha que ir lá pegar manualmente, o patch não pegava.
Similarly, there was a bug where difficulty wasn't scaling appropriate in multiplayer, so we fixed that. And then some tuning things. So the pace of mini events are pretty much rapid fire at high tiers now, you know, and so you're going to be spinning a lot of plates in this mode. The monster spawn rates have also been increased to, you know, really capture that feeling of being overwhelmed. And then finally, we reduced the wave timer down to 60 seconds, which, you know, just creates a much punchier experience for players, and of course, retuned everything. And then on top of that, we said, you know what, let's just make it easier for players to pick up Burning Aether to increase that pace. So the pets now pick up the Burning Aether as well. And that's not all. Now, of course, you know, we're all playing this for the rewards, right? And
melhoraram
so, really
as recompensas no geral.
Rewards across the board. You spend time with the mode, you want to be rewarded appropriately, and we weren't hitting that mark in the PTR. So we raised the minimum amount of Burning Aether earned from any single run. First off, every single source of Aether got boosted by 1 Aether. And then we added Aether drops to the Fell Council so that you're also getting, you know, a lot of bang for your buck just by defeating the boss as well. And that actually scales per tier as well. Next up, we retuned all the costs of the Spoils of Hell. So, you know, the greater equipment, that one with the greater affects in it, used to cost $250, now it only costs $60. Similarly, we retuned the spoils of equipment and the spoils of materials, so now they only cost 20 Aether a piece. And then finally, we retuned all the rewards that were inside, you know, the chests as well. So, you know, at your bare minimum level, when you first start playing the Infernal Hordes and you're not sure exactly how it works, we still want you to feel rewarded just for the time that you invested. And so the rewards at that bare minimum feel pretty good now. But, you know, if you are spending a lot of time with it and you know how to optimize this mode, we wanted to make sure that, you know, the rewards reflected that too, so that that higher, you know, ceiling of rewards has been raised as well. So you're playing at tier 8, you are going to get significantly more rewards than you would at tier 1.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. That's a lot of stuff to change.
I just want to call out, Dan, your shirt is amazing.
I was going to interrupt, but I didn't want to while he was talking.
Now I just want that shirt, and I'm very jealous that I don't actually own that shirt. So I will message you after the stream to let me know where I can get this shirt.
Yeah, I think someone on the team made it. So I was like, I needed a new shirt for the live stream. So.
That is her art. 100%. Yes.
Well, now we know.
Okay, now I know.
And it is totally awesome. I had to wear it. So.
It is, Aaron. I totally know.
Aaron, we will be touching base after the stream.
Yes.
Yeah, Dan, that's a ton of changes. It sounds like we're really cranking up the intensity for the Infernal Hordes. Really, really cool to see. Super excited to jump into it. So I know for the Infernal Hordes, that's one part of the season that's coming, but there was a lot that players didn't get to experience in the PTR. That will be coming with the season. So, can you kind of share what's going to be new for players coming into season 5?
Vai falar sobre algumas coisas que não estavam no PTR e vão vir na próxima temporada.
On features that were on both the Eternal realm and the Seasonal realm, and we have a number of seasonal exclusive features that y'all haven't had a chance to play with yet. So, we're going to tell you about them now. First up, we've got the seasonal progression. So, you're going to see what we call the reputation system and some footage here in just a second. And the reputation system is something that we had in season 4 and actually earlier in some events, and we've brought it back here because it serves as a great backbone for the season. And we've evolved it in some significant ways.
Isso aí, na verdade, a gente já
first off,
esperava, né?
how you earn reputation is a bit different now.
É um
It was
esquema
really
de
important for us in
reputação.
season 5 to give you more of a give you more choice in how you wanted to earn your reputation. So previously in season 4, you earn reputation through just playing Hell Tides, as you should, because we made a lot of improvements to Hell Tides in season 4, but here we wanted to broaden it out a bit more. So you earn reputation in season 5 by just defeating powerful servants of Hell, elites, Hellborn, champions, bosses, so on and so forth, right?
Matando tudo que é elite,
that gives you a lot more
boss,
choice
essas
to
coisas,
say, hey, you know, I can
ganha
earn
reputação.
reputation in Hell Tides, or I want to earn it in the Infernal Hordes, or honestly, I want to take a break and do a Stronghold. You'll get reputation there too. Another small tweak that we made that's pretty important is that when you pick up reputation, you actually get a small boost in XP as well. So as you're continually filling out your reputation track, you're starting to level up just a little more quickly than you did before. Now, another thing that you might have seen are these big green tiles in the reputation system, and those are seasonal quests. So we made it very clear that hitting certain tiers of your reputation system now unlock the seasonal quests, and it actually starts to weave the narrative through the progression a bit more, which we really like the feel of, and we hope to build on in the future. And then finally,
essas partes verdinhas são
it's all
quest.
about the rewards, right? So there's lots of great returning rewards in the reputation system. You're going to be able to earn uniques, specifically class-based uniques. They're going to help you figure out what you
itens
want your
únicos
build to be early on in the season. You're also going to be able to get other powerful equipment, big drops of crafting materials, and of course, at the very end of the reputation track will be a resplendent spark that you can use to ultimately craft a mythic unique. Next up, we've got the seasonal quest line. You know, I was teasing it up a little bit with the reputation system there. So the Season of the Infernal Hordes has a rather unique narrative flow because we have an Eternal quest line that introduces, you know, a big new feature that takes you back to hell, right? And so we wanted to make sure that was available to everybody, not just seasonal players. And that also starts at World Tier 3. Now, for those of you who played the PTR have already seen it. That's the one that features Lokrin helping you to get back to hell and confront the Infernal Hordes. But we've developed
Vai ter no Reino Eterno também esse negócio de voltar pro
really
inferno.
secondary, an
Das ondas
additional
infernais, né?
seasonal quest line named of Lambs and Wolves, which we're kind of teasing right here. And new NPC named Estelle is guiding you to become more powerful before you join Lokrin to journey back to hell. Now this one's going to be a little closer in tone to the Iron Wolves quest in season 4, but it's going to be a bit more expansive than that. And like I said, it weaves in and out of the seasonal progression. So how do they relate to one another? Well, the seasonal quest line is exclusive to season 5. And so you are able to get a really more complete picture of the story by playing both the seasonal quest line and the eternal quest line. You can kind of think of the seasonal quest line as almost like a prequel to you unlocking the Infernal Horde.
Jogar no Reino Eterno não compensa, né, velho? Vai ter também, mas pouquinho vai jogar. Se bem que tem gente que joga, né? Tem uns doidos.
And so, you know, the Infernal, or rather the Eternal quest line here, which is named Eyes of the Enemy, is going to be available for all players and won't go away after the season ends. So it's going to be there forever. So if you decide sometime down the road that you want to check out the Infernal Hordes and say, I don't know, season 6, you can do that, right? And so, yeah, that's where we ended up with the quest lines this season.
Hordas Infernais vai ser uma mecânica permanente, não vai sair depois da temporada.
Gotten a few teases of before, but we can go into more
Que
detail
é
here.
legal. Uma opção a mais de
all
endgame,
micro
né?
dungeons to show that hell has started taking root in Sanctuary. Now, since the Infernal Hordes is an endgame activity, World Tier 3+, we wanted to make sure we had some content that targeted our World Tier 1 and 2 players. And so you go into these, it's going to be a great source of reputation. It's going to be a great place to get some powerful items. And it's a pretty cool place to just kind of experience what the gameplay is going to be like down the road. Now, originally we had kind of patterned these off the Donheim tunnels, if y'all remember those. But with the
Dopamine
introduction of
tunnels.
Helltide in season 4, we had to change it up a little bit, because I don't think that alone would have sufficed. And so what we did is we pulled in a lot of elements from the Infernal Hordes, and we're using this as an opportunity to introduce those elements. So you see right here, we've got a simple Infernal choice that shows, that basically says, okay, do I want my boss to be a little simpler or a little more difficult? And you get to choose. Hopefully the person playing chose the more difficult one. I didn't see, but
São
you're
dungeons
going to
que vai
be
ter
rewarded a lot
pouco da
more for taking
mecânica
that risk
das
of
Hordas
making the boss more
Infernais.
difficult.
De
And you're going to be
escolher
earning burning aether, and at the end
benefícios
there are going to be
e
some spoils that you can spend on.
malefícios.
And like I said, you'll get some really powerful gear that should help you on your journey toward
Uma coisa boa e uma coisa ruim,
encountering
você
the
escolhe.
Infernal Hordes. So if you want more details on these, I recommend that you check out our blog that came out 2 days ago. And yeah, thank you.
Dan, that's awesome. I gotta say, chat got pretty excited when you mentioned domain tunnels. They kind of blew up there. So definitely a fan favorite.
Everyone remembers the dopamine tunnels. Yeah,
Right.
And it's great that there's now like opportunities for players within like World Tier 1 and 2 to actually be able to have other options of leveling up. And
Dopamine tunnels.
with these new help reaches, it's
a good way to
for people
tease
for
in the
leveling.
new content.
Exactly.
Experience it, yeah.
Then you get into those Infernal Hordes in World Tour 3 and away you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. As Dan had mentioned, we did publish the Season of the Infernal Hordes blog a little bit earlier this week. We are going to have patch notes that will publish following the stream. So for any details we reveal across the stream, you can check those out for more information. Dan's going to join us towards the end of the stream for our Q&A. So if you have any questions, please drop those in Twitch chat, and we'll be pulling them to get into those towards the end of the stream. So we just touched on a ton of stuff that's coming in Season of the Infernal Hordes itself, but based off the PTR, we also have a ton of changes coming across Sanctuary.
Yes.
And to walk us through from the other end of the stream, Mr. Adam Fletcher.
I get to pretend like I'm the person on the panel. I'm gonna.
You designed and did all of this?
Exactly.
Yeah,
This was
put in all the
me.
changes.
No, we have a fantastic design team here, and I am gonna bring in my inner Colin Finer to talk about some stuff. But yes, as Marcus mentioned, there's a lot of changes. A lot of the stuff that we actually did talk about in the blog, and some of the stuff that people heard from PTR, but there have been changes even since PTR.
Yep.
And we have a few new things in here that will also squeak in here as we're talking about it. But one big topic I know that everyone brought up after PTR, and that we even brought up even during our PTR stream, was Helltide specifically. One big topic within Helltides was Baneful Hearts. If you guys remember back during the PTR stream, we talked about how Season 4, everyone had a plethora of Baneful Hearts. I mean, it felt like everyone was always carrying about 100 to 150 at any given time, and you could deposit as many into your heart's desire and still always have that same amount. We wanted Painful Hearts to feel a little bit more special. And so during the PTR, we actually did take the number down in terms of how many you would be able to earn. We did hear everyone's feedback. People were like, that feels kind of crappy. So we most definitely readjusted the drop rate of Baneful Hearts to really kind of close that gap in between Season 4 and Season 5 PTR. We wanted to make sure that was,
Aumentaram o drop do
like,
Baneful
you won't
Heart.
have 150 on you at all times, most likely, but you still have plenty now to be able to summon the Maiden as well.
Que é o negócio que você usa
some of the
no
changes that we
Helltide, né,
have
pra
coming up for
invocar
Baneful Hearts and the
demônia lá.
will help with this is we're bumping up the drop rates off of chests within Helltide specifically.
Eles não melhoraram o
Players will
drop,
also
né?
be
Eles
able to get a
reajustaram.
guaranteed
Eu não sei se eu
per
falei
drop
melhoraram,
off
mas
of Helltide commanders now.
reajustaram. Eu acho que na verdade vai cair
one
um
big thing
pouquinho
is,
menos.
within world bosses, we actually have an image of like where you'll be able to now get your hard drop rates guaranteed. Is world bosses. Sometimes world bosses actually do spawn within a Helltide zone, and we thought it would be kind of cool that, hey, you killed the world boss there, and a Helltide happened to be present in that specific zone where the world boss is. Now you'll just get a guaranteed 3 within that world boss kill, which is kind of nice. So
That's super cool.
we're also bumping up the drop chance to like local events, mastery chests within Helltide, and of course Harbingers within it as well.
Meio que
And then one
espalhar
big change that we're doing within this
os
as well
lugares
is,
que
the blood maiden
dropam
within
o
World Tier 1
Baneful
and 2.
Heart.
in Season 4 and even Season 5 PTR, you would have to deposit.
Porque daí você sempre está tendo um fluxo desse material, né? Independente do que você esteja fazendo.
So for World Tier 1 and 2, so there'll be one less like altar pedestal for you to deposit a heart for to summon the Blood Maiden within World Tier 1 and 2, which should help out with, you know.
It just makes your farming a little bit quicker in the early levels.
Exactly. And it doesn't feel like you're needing to put in that many for those earlier levels.
That much easier to chain a ton of Blood Maidens back to back to back.
Exactly, yeah. So next thing we did want to talk about is within Helltides as Tortured Gifts, another change for World Tier 1 and 2.
Beleza. Os baús no mundo 1 e 2, no Tier 1 e 2, vai custar 75 para abrir em vez de 100.
Specifically. And then this is something we talked about in the last stream, where it was like really difficult for players to actually kind of go through a Helltide and complete.
Em cada subzona da Helltide, você vai ganhar exatamente 10 favores da árvore. Então você tá fazendo Helltide, já aproveita e faz um pouco da árvore, vai lá, pega o recompensa da árvore, volta para outra zona do Helltide, faz mais uma árvore. Isso é bom que fica um fluxo de recompensa legal.
I know sometimes it would take like sometimes 2 Helltides to actually do it, or you would have to leave the Helltide and go to a non-Helltide zone to kind of finish it off and stuff. And so we wanted to make sure that was more efficient.
Muito legal, cara.
And then this was a big thing.
Big one.
So, you know, we talked about during the Season 5 PTR stream that we were, that Profane Mind Cages were a Season 4 mechanic. It was
well,
only
they were,
within that.
Yeah.
And so it was removed from Season 5. Heard the feedback, and people were like, wow, we really miss Mind Cages, bring them back, what's going on? So we did bring them back.
É o cerebrinho que você buffa os inimigos no Helltide. Ele vai acumular 3 vezes, porra, velho.
This is seasonal only, so this is only on the seasonal realm specifically.
Vai ser
but now
doideira, hein,
stacking
velho.
up to 3x does actually boost up monster
better
levels
rewards,
pretty,
better
pretty
XP,
significant.
better,
Yeah, so you'll end up, you could knock monster levels up, you know, 30 levels if you wanted to, and you will benefit or maybe suffer.
Suffer quite a lot, yeah.
But it does give players the option now to use that, and so Profane Mind Cages are back and in a kind of a cooler form for Season 5, which is really cool, and we really appreciate the feedback we heard from players regarding Helltides on that. Next, overall, just general game updates that we do have. One big thing that we're doing is we are boosting legendary drop rates off of really pretty much almost like most content, like Helltides, Nightmare Dungeons, Infernal Hordes, for any monster that is level 100 or higher. So you'll be able to see and just obtain more legendaries that way, less rares, things like that. Separately, enchanting, one big thing we heard is, you know, people were somewhat, you know,
Tem mais
blocked a
drop de
little bit with
lendário.
Angel's Breath, and so we did remove Angel's Breath as a cost towards enchanting. It's no longer
Beleza.
required. We've actually now kind of just swapped this over to the respective legendary salvage. So for instance, armor, it would be Coiling Wards, weapons, Baleful Fragments, and then jewelry, Abstruse Sigils. That tongue twister there.
Abstruse Sigils.
Abstruse Sigils. But you now have the ability of being able to do enchanting. Just note that, of course, gold costs are still associated with enchanting, but now it's a little bit, removing a little bit of that friction with the Angel's Breath requirement. And then this is something that we had talked about beforehand, which is just crowd control. Overall, within Season 5 is going to be a lot better. I know crowd control can be sometimes painful, or either knockdown.
Here knockdown.
Tá melhorar o crowd control. Com ano parado.
And so CC duration has been essentially just pretty much reduced like across the board to like 1.5 seconds max.
Boa.
And then one cool feature is you can also spam potions now while you're CC'd. Really good for like you know, people in hardcore.
Conseguir usar poção quando você tiver paralisado.
I'm still dying. But you now have the ability of being able to spam potions specifically if you are CC'd, which is really nice. You know, we were talking about like, you know, charging like
bloated corpse fiends when they like all stun you and they do the poison AoE. Yeah.
Exactly.
As a keyboard slammer myself, thank you. For
yes, exactly.
Change.
Next update we have is world bosses. So funny enough, this actually fell into Season 5 PTR, but that we forgot
Legal,
to actually
véi.
put it in Season 5 PTR notes. And we actually forgot to actually mention it.
Eles vão
We got a lot of
normalizar
reports of people
o
going like,
dano
hey, why are world bosses like tankier?
dos
harder to
World
hit?
Boss. Porque, mano,
Wait, what?
World Boss, velho, tem que ser uma coisa legal. Não tô falando que precisa demorar um ano pra você matar, mas também, pô, velho, atualmente você chega no World Boss, é um segundo. O bicho nem nasce e já morre. Aí não tem graça. Tem que ter, sei lá, um tempo de você fazer as mecânicas. Ah lá, ó, ser um pouquinho mais tanque, vai demorar um pouco mais pra matar os World Bosses.
And less, you know, like, hey, I blinked and it's gone.
É isso mesmo. Você pisca, eles morreram, velho.
Three, man, mine, they barely even spawn in. I don't know about you.
It was actually present in PTR, and we actually got a lot of people.
O bicho morre antes de spawnar.
And it actually wasn't a bug. It was just something we forgot. We forgot to actually mention in the patch notes. So that is our bad. But we do want to make sure that everyone's aware that world bosses now have a feature called resilience, and that will end up helping out with those encounters specifically. Separately for bosses, pit boss damage has been reduced pretty much across the board. And then one big thing that we did want to call out is we got a lot of feedback within, you know, Season 4 and...
Nossa, o dano do boss do Pit foi reduzido em 66%.
We saw some people address the changes that we were having there. But pit bosses had this tendency within Season 4 to have like very sharp damage, where it would scale up really hard.
Tiraram alguns dos hit kills que os boss davam.
And you could potentially just get one shot based
E você vai ficar com aquele
the shadow boss like that would appear.
Shadow Pit Boss Fix. É tipo o negócio da Lilith lá. Você fica com uma caveirinha que quanto mais você acumula, mais dano você toma. Vai acumular 3 vezes e quando tiver com 3 acúmulos, vai dar o dano que dá hoje em dia do Loot Reborn.
And it can go up to 3 times, and then obviously when it gets to the max, you have a very good chance of getting like heavily like punished for taking up to 3 debuffs from that end. This is really to allow a little bit more flexibility for players, you know, based off of the feedback we heard regarding a lot of the one-shots and things like that. You now have the ability of being able to, you know, take a couple of these debuffs and maybe not like completely get punished from that. It's less about like the perfection kind of involved, but more so being a little bit more forgiving in some of those opportunities. Now, if you are a person that's just
Sim, o Lobo era muito rápido, cara, não dava nem chance.
Immediately takes 3 debuffs, you're probably still gonna learn that, you know, that damage is still going to be very sharp with the 3 debuffs. So, but it is something to help out. In regards to that.
To be clear, how that debuff works is every time that you get hit with one of those shadow boss mechanics, you'll take the debuff and it increases all of your damage taken. So the regular boss is going to hit you harder and the shadow bosses are going to hit you harder too.
Exactly.
So you just don't want that to ramp up too much because then everything is going to be more punishing.
Yeah,
exactly.
So there's a few people already asking about those debuffs in chat. So
yeah, it just increases all your damage taken. So basically, you know, you get some freebies of getting hit by them. You really don't want to, but then after that, you got to watch out because then it's about as hard as Season 4 was.
Exactly. So, and then another big thing. So this was something that was actually not present in the PTR, but it's something that we've heard a lot of feedback about, and actually a ton.
Nossa!
This is group play.
Amém, irmãos.
In Season 4.
Agora, quando você jogar em grupo no fosso, todo mundo vai ganhar recurso igual. Puta, muito bom, velho. Muito bom.
You would get all the masterworking materials. For yourself, 100% of them, and then everyone else around that joined you would only get about like 50%.
Porque na temporada atual, a pessoa que não é o líder, né, o resto, ganha só 50% do material. Agora todo mundo vai ganhar 100%. Show de bola.
100% of the pit material rewards, and so that is being tweaked for Season 5. Now the whole entire party itself will end up receiving 100% of the materials that you end up receiving at the end of the pit. So we appreciate the feedback. Thank you guys for letting us know, and this is something that wasn't in PTR but will be for Season 5. Next up we have endgame bosses. So this is something, of
Não,
course,
isso aí a gente
we
já
talked about
sabia
during
e é uma das
PTR.
melhores
I do wanna
coisas
highlight again because
que
I think this
fizeram.
is amazing and will save a whole lot of
Não vai
time.
precisar mais sair da
You can
dungeon,
now
resetar a
resummon
dungeon, entrar de
in-game
novo na
bosses,
dungeon pra invocar o
immediately
boss.
after you end up killing them.
Maravilha.
So as you're going through the different boss
Maravilha.
ladders and stuff, you can just resummon. The altar will reappear, as you can see in the footage, and throw in the mats, and bam. Again, you're
There it
fighting
is.
Dariel, which is
Yeah.
really nice. No more exiting the
Muito bom,
dungeon,
velho,
resetting the
muito
dungeon,
bom.
running back, and then having to do it over again. This should save up a whole lot of time. This should help a whole lot with farming as well, specifically for gear. And you'll be hearing a lot about all this new gear from Adam here in a second. But there were some additional changes as well to some of the endgame bosses that we do have. Like, for instance, the first one we're going to talk about is the Beast in Ice. The Beast in Ice, of course, required a sigil to actually summon. Or to actually create the dungeon to go in to fight the Beast in Ice. There's no longer a sigil that will be required.
Muito
And also
bom
the
isso aí
Beast in Ice
também,
is now
véi.
way close to the dungeon. It's going to be a short dungeon crawl similar to the other endgame bosses, so you're not having to, go through.
Besta no gelo não vai mais precisar do sigilo para você invocar. Vai precisar mais fazer sigilo. Você não precisa andar por aquela dungeon chata do cacete. Nossa.
Now, since sigils are no longer required, you can still use those leftover sigils to immediately resummon the Beast in Ice without needing the mats that are still required for the Beast in Ice. So it's kind of a nice benefit to them. And then, of course, Varshan also got some updates. Varshan required a bunch of different body parts, and now Varshan just requires malignant hearts. And of course, we thought about eternal players in this.
Varshan não vai precisar mais daquele monte de material, só malignant hearts.
Body parts. 2 hearts by going to the alchemist. That's a magical alchemist. Like, but if you ever need a spare heart, you just go to an alchemist. That's just how it works.
Swap it out.
Yeah, that's just how it works. But yeah, some changes coming to that. And then separately, endgame bosses. For endgame bosses, the boss ladder bosses, they won't be dropping rare items anymore. They're actually just going to drop additional gold, and of course, you'll have your opportunity of getting legendaries and
Nossa, velho, muito bom isso aí também, cara.
So, but now we just
Se bem que
remove the rare item drops from them, so it takes up like less.
Ah, não, tá certo, tá certo. Ele não vai, os bosses de endgame não vão mais dropar item raro, só lendário e único. Ao invés disso, eles vão dropar ouro, né?
Tormented bosses now drop 5 times as many boss mats as before, and of course, all tormented bosses have a better chance of dropping a mythic unique. So we are boosting up the mythic unique drop.
Vai ser nossa, velho, essa temporada vai ser uma delícia. Semana que vem, terça-feira da semana que vem, vamos que vamos.
The Stygian Stone cost for the tormented bosses. Before it was 2.
Tá animando, velho. Eu não tava tão animado não, viu? Falar a verdade, pelo PTR eu fiquei meio assim. Tanto que eu fiz até um vídeo aqui no canal, meio desanimado, mas rapaz, melhoraram tudo.
And then one big thing that is happening, and this is something that was kind of mentioned in the blog, but and people will see more specifics in the patch notes. Experience is changing in terms of like the XP bonus from killing higher level monsters. It's no longer capped in. I believe it's now. Well, it's.
I think it used to be 10 levels higher.
Actually,
you didn't get more,
it's so capped, shall I say? It's capped at 30 levels. That's actually incorrect on the slide, but. It used to be 10 levels. It's now 30 levels,
Nice.
and that's across all world tiers. So if you happen, for example, if you are a level 50 character and you kill a level 80 monster in season 4,
meu irmão, Tech Games, prepara o computador aí que vai fritar, velho. Vai fritar na temporada 5.
So it should help out a lot. If you are willing to go through more challenging content, bam, you get more XP for it. So which is really cool. And it's also really nice that because it plays really well into the stacking profane mind cages, which are now available within Helltide, because that can actually also increase monster level by 30 levels as well. So it's kind of a cool little add-on, you could say, from there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think that's it for general game updates. Yeah.
Cara, muita coisa boa, velho.
As I talked about a bunch.
Yeah.
It's all in the patch notes. You guys will see the patch notes afterwards. But
yeah, really amazing
No
how all
geral,
those changes. Chat was absolutely lighting up.
Fluxo de recompensa vai ser melhor.
course, even though we've
Variedade de gameplay por
recompensa
recompensa também vai ser melhor.
Awesome to see, and we really appreciate everyone's
Tudo vai ser
feedback
muito
during
mais
PTR
rápido
and hearing, especially about the Hell
e,
Tide stuff.
consequentemente,
And
recompensador.
you guys, and we want to make sure that,
Cara, bacana.
to experience, still enjoy Hell Tide to the fullest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Exactly. No, it's really cool to see those. Those profane mind cages coming back. But yeah, Adam, thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And now, everyone, hope you're comfortable because we got a ton to go over with regards to updates to uniques, some bug fixes,
agora que vem o negócio, hein? Agora são
who better to walk us through
os updates dos itens
Let's do
únicos.
it. So we got a lot to talk about today. I'll try and go as quickly as possible. So yeah, firstly, thank you all for your feedback and comments. We got a lot of class-related feedback on the PTR, a lot of balanced feedback, a lot of just how it feels to play things. And we actually reacted pretty heavily and did a lot of changes between PTR and Season 5 launch, some of which I think some people know and some things are going to be new for you today. So really, yeah, we have a lot of things that changed. In many ways, honestly, it's going to feel like almost from a balance perspective and kind of what your class can do in your journey, it's going to feel almost like a very different game compared to what you experience on the PTR. I'm going to go through a lot of like the systemic reasons why and then some specific things that we did to every class, as well as, of course, updating all of our uniques and kind of the impact that you can expect from that. Lots to talk about. So first, we're going to be talking about bug fixes. We've got quite a few to go through that I think are pretty notable. Again, we're going to be doing the class balance updates after that, and then the unique changes. So those will be the three things I'm going to be covering today.
Bug fixes.
Firstly, as usual, we're going to be publishing the patch notes right after this, so you can read all of them. I'm not going to cover everything today, but just some of the more notable ones. So first is one on the Necromancer that we've heard about for a while now. It's a Shielding Storm. This is a legendary that when your Bone Storm damages enemies, you get a barrier equal to your max life. It used to be based on your base life instead of your max life, and now we finally fixed that. To be clear, this is a pretty huge buff.
Essa é aquela habilidade que quando você usa o Bone Storm, cada vez que você dá dano no inimigo, você ganha uma barreira. E ela estava sendo baseada na sua vida base e não na sua vida máxima. O Barbarian.
So Dust Devil builds will be a little bit stronger. We also fixed an issue with the tempering Earthquake duration.
Vai ter a Dust Devil vai ser mais forte.
The DPS of Earthquake because it was increase the duration and then your DPS would go down. So we fixed that. So it's now actually just going to make you hit
harder. Nossa, e o terremoto também vai ser bufado.
Next one, I'm going to call out one of our content creators, Woody Joe. Here, this is why we have PTR. He found a neat little oversight that we had with a passive called Trick Attacks, and I'm actually going to go over this in a little bit of detail because it's will be coming a little later.
3 seems completely
39 ranks. So
nothing to see here.
The passive is pretty good. So a little bit of background to this. Basically, we changed how this passive Trick Attacks, what it does. It went from something that was more utility-based, where it was around CC, and we turned it into damage. But we didn't update under the hood for like tempering and where it can appear from a utility to a damage recipe
olha o que ele descobriu, o Lobo.
And so it was appearing on utility, which is a lot more
Nossa, cara, 468% de critical strike chance e damage.
To fix this, right now, or on the PTR, I should say, it was on this recipe called Alchemist Control, where it was with Chilling Weight and Shadow Crash, which are also like CC-based passives. For Season 5 launch, we're actually going to be disabling this recipe from dropping. You won't be able to see it for a patch while we fix this bug. And what we're going to do is, once we re-enable the Alchemist Control recipe to drop, Trick Attacks won't be on here anymore. What we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be taking Flurry Size from another recipe called Rogue Innovation here. We're going to be moving Flurry Size, which is more of a utility-based thing, and moving that over to Alchemist Control, and then just removing Trick Attacks from Alchemist Control.
Alguns ajustes, na verdade,
now, both recipes will have, both tempering recipes will have 3 different options of what you can have there, and Rogue Innovation will actually have a little bit of a buff here too, because instead of having 4 things to roll for your tempers, we're only going to have 3, so it'll be a little bit easier to get what you want. Next, we're going to be talking about some generic class balance updates. So, kind of to set you up, a high-level theme that we're going to see in our feedback from PTR. Barbarians are really, really good. And,
os bárbaros são muito fortes comparado com outras classes.
Compared to barbarians.
Mentira.
So, we did a lot of things to address this. So, first, I want to go into detail a little bit of how we feel about barbarians and where they're at and what we want to do. We feel like one of the bigger reasons why barbarians are so strong is that they kind of have two class mechanics compared to other classes, right? They have the expertise system, which is like a normal class mechanic where, you know, they have this fantasy of leveling up their weapons and then they get bonuses. But then they also get more item slots compared to other classes, so they get more access to more legendary powers. As far as how we tackle this, we don't want our only solution to be to nerf barbarians, right? Like, a common thing that we hear is like, hey, they have more item slots, maybe you should just get rid of the item slots so that everybody has parity, right? Like, that is a way to make parity, but, you know, it takes away from their theme of being a master of weapons, and it's not very fun. So that's not the only thing that we want to do in this situation. The other thing is that we want to keep their class identity, right? Another common suggestion we hear is they'll just give all the other classes more item slots.
Não querem também tirar os slots de item dos bárbaros.
And similarly, kind of like how
deixa eles bem
necromancers have
fortes,
minions,
né?
we don't want to
Eles
give every
têm
class minions just because
espaço a
they don't
mais
have access to the cool thing that necromancers do. We don't want to just give every class, you know, more slots so that they're exactly the same as barbarian. We want to really try and keep what makes them feel special as a special thing.
E, na verdade, dois espaços a mais dependendo da classe que você está comparando.
So here's kind of our strategy of what we're thinking of with barbarians. We have a few different things that we're going to be doing. One is we're actually going to be adjusting how much damage all the classes get from their core stat. And this is going to bring other classes up to the level of barbarian. I'm going to be going over that in a little bit. We are going to be reducing the power of barbarians as part of our solution. But again, I want to point out it's not the only thing that we want to do. And then we also want to target the other class mechanics and really bring them up to the level of the barbarian effectively having two, and making the other classes feel cool in the way that makes them thematic and awesome. We already actually experimented with this in Season 4. This was an intentional thing that we did, and we wanted to see how it went with the Necromancer. If you remember, we buffed minions very heavily, and we also buffed the Book of the Dead, their class mechanic, very heavily. Not just numbers, but also in the cool factor, right? You have mechanics like, you know, your minions can throw bone spears, or, you know, your golem can do bone spikes everywhere and make enemies vulnerable.
Eles vão buffar a mecânica das outras classes.
The other class mechanics. Just to be clear, we're going to be probably doing this after the Vessel of Hatred expansion launches, so it'll be a little bit. So we are doing some things in the meantime to catch them up, but you can expect in the future we're going to be doing kind of a big overhaul to the other classes similarly to the Book of the Dead, and so their cool factor and their power level is going to be going up. So let's talk about that core stat update that I talked about previously. So basically what we're doing here is we're going to be changing the amount of damage that every class gets from their core stat. So if you didn't know, on live right now, when you log into the game, you get about 1% more damage per 10 stat of your class. So as an example, you know, the I don't know, pick one, the sorceress, you know, with intelligence, you would have 10 int, and then you would get 1% more damage. If you had 100 int, you'd have 10% more damage, and so on. So now it's going to actually depend on the class what that ratio is of how much damage you get per your core stat. So the Barbarian is going to be staying exactly the same, 1% more damage per 10 strength. The Rogue is going to get a little bit of a buff here because they do have a little bit more slots compared to other classes. So they're going to be getting 1% more damage per 9 dex. And then the other three classes, the Sorceress, Druid, and Necromancer, are going to be getting 1% more damage per 8 core stat. So, you know, without doing a lot of math, the TLDR here is Barbarians are staying the same. Rogues are going to get a bit of a bump, a bit of a buff, and the other three classes are going to get
Atualmente, todas as classes ganham 1% de dano do status principal, né? A cada 10 que ele tiver. Então, a cada 10 forças, 10 de força, o Bárbaro ganha 1% de dano. E é assim para todas as classes, cada uma com seu status. Agora eles vão reduzir para as outras classes a necessidade.
Some of the things you can expect that are different from PTR to launch. So Barbarian, you know, currently Barbarians, in addition to having more item slots, have some of the best key passives in the game, like in Season 4 and on live. One of the very main ways that we're targeting bringing them down is reducing the power level so that really their key passives are comparable to other classes. We on the team felt like, you know, they already have all these other things that are really strong going for them. They don't need like overly statted, way powerful key passives that do like, you know, over 100% multiplicative damage when the other classes are doing way less. So you did see that on the PTR. We did see a lot of feedback on like, why are we bringing down Walking Arsenal to have parity when, you know, it wasn't even really meta compared to the other key passives. And I just kind of wanted to bring some light to this of how we think about it. The reason why we brought Walking Arsenal to be level with the other ones when we brought them to be equal to other classes is that, you know, we want all the key passes on Barbarian to have parity with each other. If we just brought down the other key passives that were way overperforming and didn't bring Walking Arsenal down to be even with them, then really Walking Arsenal is just going to be the best mandatory pick, and every Barbarian build is going to have to interact with this system. And we really wanted them to be equal with each other so that, you know, there's actually a choice when you get to your key passive of which one to take. So I just wanted to clarify that of, you know, what our thinking was there.
Eu não acho isso não, cara. Eu não acho que as passivas principais do Bárbaro sejam tão mais fortes do que as outras, não.
We did hear feedback of like, man, it really sucks. You know, I understand that they're being brought down and it's fair, but, you know, we want to have some things to look forward to. So we did introduce a number of buffs coming in between PTR and live so that you have some things to look forward to and new build paths or your, you know, underperforming builds are not being brought down as well. So I'm going to give a couple of examples here. One is Hammer of the Ancients. We increased its damage baseline by 10%. And we also adjusted the of Ancestral Force legendary. One of the troubling things that this build has problems with is like single target damage against bosses and things. You know, it does really good in AoE and brings down enemies, but its single target's a little bit lacking. So we're upgrading this legendary power, so now it's going to be doing more damage against bosses. So it'll kind of help you with that single target issue. Another one is Upheaval. Upheaval builds can choice, and also a little bit of a preview of kind of how we're changing uniques, which I'll be going over a lot more later. We're increasing Upheaval damage by about 15%, and we also rounded out Hellhammer now. It's quite a bit more powerful. I can point out a bunch of things here of how it's better. But you can see it gives more skill ranks of Upheaval compared to before. The damage of its burning on the ground just baseline went up. It also has scaling on the burning damage. So, you know, before the burning damage wasn't really a meaningful part of the unique.
Isso aí tá forte essa porra.
See with uniques across the board is that they're going to be a lot more about the thematic of what the unique is, and that's where their power is going to be. So here the burning ground actually will scale with
vai
your
dar pra fazer build de Upheaval, certeza.
So, you know, it'll actually be doing meaningful damage.
Aumenta o tamanho do Upheaval, 300 de força, vai dar o dano de fogo e vai aumentar o dano de fogo com base na sua força.
It's also giving you skill ranks of wall up, a passive, so that's more multiplicative damage.
Caramba,
you also get upheaval size, so now your burning ground and your upheaval is going to be bigger. So there's just all kinds of new things going on. It's going to be a lot
cooler,
a lot more
pra passiva ao Allop também, né?
And hopefully a lot more fun.
Yeah, Hellhammer looks absolutely insane.
Yeah, and 300 strength also, by the way.
Foda.
300 strength, no big
360
deal.
strength, no big deal.
No big deal.
It's going to be pretty good. So next, the Sorceress. We got a whole lot of feedback that, you know, the Sorceress isn't powerful enough compared to other classes.
We got so much. I'm going to stop us right here. We got so much feedback about the Sorceress.
Just a little bit. And the Druid.
And the Druid.
And the other
and the Necromancer. I will just note, like, we hear you guys. We absolutely.
Fala, Renato, beleza?
Okay, now you may continue.
Okay. So, for the Sorcerer specifically, we heard feedback that they're not powerful enough. So we did quite a few things to address it. Firstly, they've got a lot of large buffs to their uniques. I would say even more than other classes. Your uniques are going to feel really good, is the hope, and I think we've hit it. And I'll be going over some of them a little bit later. We also buffed all of their core and mastery skills by about 15 to 20%. So just baseline. Remember, this is in addition to the core stat buff.
Todas as core e mastery skills do Sorcerer vai ter buff de 15 a 20%. Base.
We also did multiple defensive buffs. You know, we heard a lot of feedback that they have trouble surviving in situations that the other classes could kind of get away with. These are some examples. We did more than this, but Ice Armor, your base shield amount is going up from 40% to 56% of your max life. Snow Veiled aspect, this one was updated from PTR to launch. So on PTR, it was that your Ice Armor gave you Unstoppable and gave you armor. And on launch, you're still going to get Unstoppable, but you're going to get damage reduction, which, you know, anyone who knows how the defenses within this game work is way more significant than just getting armor.
Yeah, when you hit that armor cap, it's kind of like...
Yeah, you just want to gobble up DR like Pac-Man as much as you can get, the more the
better.
better.
Sobrevivência do Sorcerer também.
Also, we did multiple buffs.
Pois é, Unstoppable pro Sorcerer.
Again, this is not covering everything.
Importante, né?
But one of the things is that, you know, we put a lot of caps to make sure that some Paragon noses just didn't go out of control compared to everything else. But we heard feedback that, you know, those caps were a little bit too punishing. So we increased them. An example here is Burning Instinct, where, you know, on PTR, it capped at 40% more multiplicative damage. And we increased that up to
eu vou conseguir fazer a minha build de incinerar, velho. Vou conseguir. Ah, nem a pau, eu quero incinerar tudo.
Your total amount is going to go up, but then also the rate that you get it. It used to be 1% per 50 int, now it's 1% per 20 int. So you'll be getting more efficient bang for your buck for your int and a total cap that's much higher. So Druid, similar to Sorceress, surprise, surprise, got a lot of feedback that it's not powerful enough compared to the Barbarian or other classes. So we've got a lot of multiple quality of life and damage buffs coming in. Again, these are just some examples. Also, you got to remember the uniques are going to be coming in as well. Boulder damage went up. We increased the damage across the board of their like core skills mostly, and we missed boulders, so we're increasing their damage a bit.
Shift perspective.
We also got a lot of feedback that we came out with this really cool unique for Cataclysm that made the lightning bolts smart and target enemies. And then a lot of people were like, "Hey, why does it have to like get a unique to make my skill be smart?" And we agreed.
Não vai ter mais o cooldown do Earth Spike agora.
So
Vai dar pra ficar dando os spikes toda hora.
Perfect Storm, the Storm key passive is getting its damage boosted from 30 to 40%. Seismic Shift, this was an aspect that we think is really cool where your Earth Spike kind of goes in a line and does a bunch of Earth Spikes.
Nossa, Boulder damage foi de 46 para 70%.
So before it used to like give you this big bonus of way more resource reduction gen and more damage on it.
Tô vendo que nessa temporada eu vou fazer todas as classes de novo. Todas. Se bem que nessa temporada passada eu não joguei de druida.
Also similar to the Sorceress, we're putting their little bonus cap on their legendary Paragon nodes. So an example here, they went from 40 to 60%. So you've got Thunderstruck, Earthen Devastation, and Survival Instincts. We've got a little visual there at the bottom node, but you can see that top end of the damage is now 60%, so it's going to be better than PTR. Also, we came out with that new unique I mentioned for Cataclysm. It used to be on the gloves on PTR, which a lot of people, which we agreed with, it kind of felt bad that, you've got the two storm-related uniques on the same slot, and you can't take them together. It was competing with Unsun Ascetics Wraps. This was the Lightning Storm unique. But now it's going to be on the range slot, so now you can take them both together, so they're not competing with each other anymore.
Beleza.
Next is the Rogue. So, to be frank, the Rogue we feel like it's in a pretty good spot, so we didn't do as many changes.
Rogue eles acham que tá bem, não precisa fazer muitas mudanças, nem buff nem debuff.
The first one is Flurry. So, as you know, if you played the PTR, Flurry got some pretty dramatic updates, right? Both of their enhancement and both of their choices that you could pick on the base skill got changed and made a lot better. We saw that, a lot of the output of Flurry was related to doing the mechanics that the enhancement and the advanced Flurry were requiring you to do, like casting it a bunch of times in a row and stuff like that. And we wanted to move some of that damage from those enhancements and things into the base skill. So the enhancement and the advanced Flurry are still going to be pretty potent, but we lowered their damage and instead just juiced the base skill even more. And what this is going to mean is really just that you're going to be more consistently doing that damage, and you're going to be less reliant on doing the stacking mechanics to get it. Next, Wind Force. This one has had a troubled history of just trying to find ways to make it really good and useful. Instead of knocking back enemies when it procs, it's going to knock them down now. So you no longer have to worry about like knocking enemies
out of knockback, vai derrubar o inimigo no chão.
Next to you, and then you're just knocking one of them or a few of them away. Yeah. Now they're just going to go. Eu
sempre quis fazer, vamos ver. Vulnerável, movement speed, core damage, chance for barrage projectiles to cast twice. Boa. Mais 3 to barrage, beleza. E mais 1 to malice. Ímpetos e concussive.
For your barrage, you've got a couple passive upgrades there. And then as you can see, the damage went up, but also now knocks down enemies instead of knocks them back.
Ah, ele vai ser um arco específico para barragem agora.
Feedback that Blood Necromancer players are a little sad, aren't really catching up to the other versions of Necromancer. So we've buffed up a bunch of their tempering recipes and the damage on them. We're also buffing their
o Necromante, pelo jeito eles acham que tá bem, só as builds de sangue do Necromante que eles não acham que tá legal. Osso e Minion, pelo jeito eles gostam. E sombra, né? Osso, Minion e sombra, tá bem. Agora, sangue realmente, não vejo muita build de sangue, pelo menos nessa temporada eu não vi.
So pretty good there. And then last but not least here, Lucky Hit. We've heard a lot of feedback from Necromancer players that they kind of rely a lot on the Miasma Corpse Explosion to get their Lucky Hit procs off, and that their other skills don't really compete.
O Sever, porra, 40% chance de Lucky Hit.
More generally. So we just buffed Lucky Hit on a bunch of different skills, so you could see there what all the numbers are. Again, those will be on the patch notes, but really they're just going to be Lucky Hitting more often and getting cool procs more. All right, so next, let's talk about uniques a little bit, right? We've got
super excited about this.
Agora é a hora da alegria, só as mudanças de item único.
We said that, we had this kind of different philosophy when it comes to uniques, and we went into detail
Todos os únicos mudaram, viu, pessoal? Todos, absolutamente todos.
Existing uniques in the game yet. So we've done that pass now. We've updated nearly every unique in the game, and I'm going to do a little bit of a recap of kind of how we thought, and then giving you some examples of what we did. So these updates are fairly dramatic. They're going to be showing you 3 from each class as well as 3 generic ones to give you a really meaty idea of the different categories and ways that we thought of updating uniques and kind of, what you can expect for your builds.
Yeah, and I know, and Marcus is going to remind us about this at the end as well. But but I will say, we are showing 3 here and 3 for every class and 3.
Nada, é só jogar na temporada, já era.
Is actually in the patch notes, and we have a before and after in the patch notes, so you guys will have easy access and
you can easily compare the two and see what was the difference.
So after the stream, you'll be able to compare. And so we're just only covering a small amount.
O dólar está batendo 5,76 nesse exato momento. Está subindo. 5,61.
So yeah,
5,76.1, aliás. Já ele chega no
5,77. By unique effects, I want to be clear. That is like the thing at the bottom that is like deals 40 to 60% more multiplicative damage or whatever. That number is going to be up on the higher end. So instead of 40 to 60, it'll be 40 to 80 or 40 to 90 or 40 to whatever, right? So that power level is just going to be generally up almost across the board. And then really what we targeted for these updates is the stats on the uniques. So the stats are going to pretty much break every rule that we had in the game before when it comes to being a cool item. So some things that you're going to see, and I think I got an example of most of, if not all of these, but you're going to see uniques that have different inherents compared to other stats. So, your boot inherent, could be something that's not even related to boots or movement anymore. It could be something else. Or sometimes we add more inherent stats. So something that didn't exist before, some items can have 2 inherents instead of just 1, which is a pretty big difference. We have a lot more that have stats that break normal slot rules. So, things like
eles vão quebrar várias regras com os itens únicos. Tipo assim, às vezes status que não pode vir em bota vai vir nas botas únicas. Essas coisas.
But now that tempering's in the game and uniques have to compete with these really great tempered items, uniques can have that too. They can also have much higher potential stat values compared to normal items. So, if a normal item has 20 to 40% more damage, a unique can be like, 1 to 300% more damage or whatever, right? And we even do this with the tempered affixes. So unique can have juiced up versions of tempered affixes that make them solve those problems much quicker. Also, we've introduced a lot of stats that really have powerful effects on them. Sometimes even a single stat on a unique can have the impact that a legendary power normally would on an item as far as what it does to a build. And we'll have a couple examples of that where like a stat on an item is actually giving you a new effect that didn't exist before that you could do.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, so again, we're going to be going through 3 examples per class.
3 exemplos, vamos lá.
Just try and quickly go through and kind of point out some of the key things that are kind of neat about the items. So we're going to shotgun this a little bit, and yeah, you're going to see some cool items. So let's get to it.
Gravas
so first,
penitentes.
Penitent Greaves. This is a generic unique. You can see here, this one now has 2 inherents as opposed to 1. Another thing that you can notice is that normally, the evade grants more move speed. It's only for 1 second, and this one is not only has 2 inherents, but it's for 2 seconds. So you'll evade and boost around at crazy sonic speed for a couple seconds, which is pretty neat. And now you can run through enemies while you do it. We've also got some neat stats for like crit chance,
Fist of Fate.
Chill potency there that are new to the game.
Nossa, essa Fist of Fate era horrorosa.
A little bit early, and they were very happy about. So one thing I think that's kind of cool is that,
44% de chance de golpe de sorte na luva sem upar. Minha nossa.
So if something's about cold or something here, like Fist of Fate is about like RNG to the max. So we're really going hard on like what the theme is. So here you can see like the attack speed can go from 0.1 to 8.7, and everything on it is like has a huge range of what you can roll. So like a greater affixed Fist of Fate could be like a best in slot item for a lot of builds.
The lucky hit chance on this.
Yes, this is the one that people point out that we.
It's just crazy.
I talked with one of the people on our team. I want to shout out Alex on our team.
Só que vocês viram que a variedade de roll, tipo, attack speed 0.1 a 8.7. A variedade é muito grande. Então eles quiseram fazer isso nessa luva. Ela pode ser uma merda ou pode ser a melhor. Grandfather. 150 para todos os status, mais vida, mais 20 de máximo resource e 300% de dano.
And I will note, like, even in season 4,
meu Deus do céu, velho.
Caralho. Hidden stat item. Sometimes when you found a
Puta
greater
que
affix version
pariu.
of a grandfather.
Yeah.
It would actually apply to that. That is now.
Yeah, that's all gone.
Dunzo.
It's just inherent
Cara.
can't be greater. That we thought of a lot with this. So.
O avô
Yeah,
tá
so now let's go into
insano.
the
Olha lá.
classes. Barbarian, this is battle trance.
Critical
this one
strike
exists already on
chance.
live.
Damage reduction
Probably
from
the
close
two big
enemies,
things here,
muito
one is,
bom.
you know, you have two different passives
Cooldown
now that you
reduction não
get.
vai ter
A
mais,
lot of
vai
times
ter
we're
mais
adding
2
skill
pra
ranks to
frenzy e mais
passives
6
because
pra
that's a way to add
duelista.
multiplicative damage, or just buffs to really cool effects on a unique via their stats. The other thing to point out here is the actual effects.
Nossa
Before it was
senhora.
giving you increased attack speed to all of your other skills.
Agora
and
esse
frenzy
amuleto vai
stacks.
dar mais
Now
dano
you're gonna be
mesmo.
getting damage and attack speed. You know, we heard a lot of feedback from players that they
Agora
would
eu não
hit
pego
attack
ela
speed
nunca
cap,
mais.
and then this unique wasn't really doing very much for them. So now you're also just going to get damage in addition to making it easier to hit
Nossa
that cap for
senhora,
your other
velho.
skills. So it's just, you know, more stats, stronger.
Ó, esse aí era um
Next,
negócio
Reign of the
legal do
Ravenous,
Bárbaro.
A couple things here. One is it's giving you skill
Critical
ranks
strike chance mais, mais dano vulnerável, mais 2 pra range e mais 2 pra brawling. Perdeu o de dano contra inimigos sangrando. Range duration até 8 segundos. Damage brawling skills apply 2 stacks of range. Cara, ele foi de pode acontecer a cada 1 segundo pra cada 4 segundos.
Small little detail, but before you could only apply that special effect of your brawling skills, applying your Ren's bleed every
Velho,
4
isso
seconds, and now it's
aqui,
every
com aquela
second.
build que
So
você
now if you're
fica
able to
pulando
spam
infinitamente,
brawling skills, you're just going to be applying Ren bleeds to
vai
enemies and,
dar
you know,
um
stronger Ren bleeds like
sangramento
crazy.
do
So
cacete
it's a
no
pretty big
inimigo,
power boost.
velho. Porque antes era a cada
Next, the
4
Fields of
segundos. Ó, vamos ver.
Crimson. The thing I really want to call out here, I mean, there's a lot of
270
things
de
that are kind of
força,
unique and
dano
different,
contra
but
inimigos
is that,
sangrando.
one kind of rule that we had with item stats
Aumenta
that
a
we're now
explosão do
changing and breaking
ruptura
is we never
e
really
diminui o
buffed the things like
cooldown do ruptura.
enhancements or, like
Teve
the
um nerf
AV, like
ali,
the
no
different
cooldown
choice
do
upgrades that you
ruptura
can
teve
do
um
for a
pequeno
skill.
nerf.
This one actually buffs enhanced rupture's explosion size. So, you know, normally when you rupture an enemy, it does that explosion. This will make that explosion be way bigger. So it's kind of a neat way that we can manipulate.
Esse aí ficou mais ou menos. Esse aí não ficou muito bom, não.
Next, let's move on to the Sorceress. So the Staff of Endless Rage, we actually have a combo here that we're going to show a little video
300
of
de inteligência, muito bom.
Fireball builds.
Fireball projectile speed, chance to fireball cast twice, 59 a 70, de 57 a 75%. E mais 6 para fireball.
Fireballs fly through the air faster or bounce quicker. And so you'll be able to get through them and they'll, you know, finish their
Essa
path
daí eu acho que
faster.
também não vai
You've got
ter
the
build com isso aí,
temporary
não.
recipe now, so it doesn't compete with your chance to cast twice. And you can see there, it
Eu
goes
tô
up to
entendendo tudo,
75%
Renaro.
just
Tá me
on that
tirando,
one
rapaz.
stat.
Oxi.
So it basically almost solves it for you by itself, which is pretty huge.
Caraca,
You've got
véi.
some massive skill ranks to fireball, so now again way more multiplicative damage than before. And then you know you can see at the bottom that the upper end of that damage is going up per the same as most of our uniques. And next is combos with the Gloves of the Illuminator. A couple things to
Critical strike
kind of
chance,
gloat on here
fireball
is the
attack speed,
fireball
mais
attack
um.
speed is going up by a much
Mana
bigger
when
amount
fireball
than other
explode.
classes, or than normal
Mais 2
attack
pra
speed,
fireball.
sorry, on other slots. Also, you get mana when fireball explodes.
2%
I played with this build, and I think it was season 1, and I constantly ran into mana issues because you always want to spam.
Cara,
this
agora
as much
você
as
vai
you can.
poder ter
So when
a
you think of
redução de
this
dano em
stat,
0%.
you can
Ou seja,
greater
não
this,
vai
you
reduzir
can temp-
o
or,
dano de
master
quando a
with this.
fireball pular no chão.
You kind of combine,
Em vez de 30 a 20, vai ser de 30 a 0.
Speed here, and then you combine it with the projectile speed.
Yeah, and you get a lot more
yeah.
fireballs. Remember, it's every time that it explodes, which when it bounces, it's exploding.
Carai, véi.
And when you're splitting and getting more
Só
from
vem
multiple
terça-feira,
projectiles,
só
you're getting
vem.
more bounce explosions. So it's giving
Vou
you
jogar
a
pra cacete
resource
da
engine
bodega.
Yeah,
all on its own
you're
in one
essentially a
stack.
fireball machine gun. which
Yeah,
is pretty
so
great.
we've got a little bit of a season 4 to season 5 comparison here of what it looks like. A little video. So in season 4, you can see, you know, every third cast gives you 3. But
Nossa.
season 5, you're going to randomly get 3, and then sometimes even more when it combines with the double projectile bonus. So you can actually really fill up your screen with fireballs everywhere. And every one of those bounces is giving you mana back to cast more.
That's ludicrous.
So it's pretty cool. It's its
Muito
own little
legal.
engine.
Blue
Next,
Rose.
we've got Blue Rose. Probably the cool thing to point out here
Critical
is
strike
there's a
chance
chance
em vez
for
de
ice
damage,
spikes to explode
cold
twice.
damage ao
So
invés
this
de
is
ice
also something that we
spike.
haven't really done, where we have
Ice
these,
spike
we call
damage
them sub-powers internally, but, you
339%
know,
ao
these
invés
things
de
like dust doubles or
42%.
ice spikes that are like
Chance to ice
powers that
spike
generate when
explode
you cast a
twice.
skill that are
Mana
usually
cost
legendaries or
reduction.
uniques.
A gente perde
We
look hit
generally don't
chance e
manipulate
mana
them too
cost
heavily like
reduction.
this, but we're going to be experimenting more with that in unique stat affixes. So here, you know, your ice spikes can actually like double proc, so they get, you know, double explosions, and then any other things that would proc off that would be doubled, which is pretty neat.
Legal.
Next, let's move on to the Druid. So, Waxing Gibbous, this is the
Nossa, Spirit
Druid
on Kill. Que status lixo, ainda bem que tiraram. Critical Strike Damage, Bloodhowl Grand Stealth, vai ficar invisível quando der o Bloodhowl, mais 4 to Shred e mais 2 to Toxic Clown. Dá pra fazer build de veneno.
What's really cool about this is, we basically added a new mechanic via a simple item stat in this unique, and it combines with the unique effect, right? So before on live, you kill enemies with Shred, you go into stealth, and then you come out and you guarantee crit. So as you're killing enemies over and over, you're just critting constantly as you go in and out of stealth. But you couldn't really do that against bosses. You had no other ways to get into stealth. But now we've created an alternative way where if you cast Blood Howl or get the Blood Howl effect in other ways, you'll go into stealth and get this.
Você vai conseguir entrar em stealth mesmo lutando contra boss. E aí você vai conseguir esse Critical Strike garantido por 4 segundos, velho.
Next, Great Staff of the Crone. I believe we showed this one earlier to people, but just wanted to point out.
Eu acho muito legal esse item. Já fiz build desse item na temporada 3.
Targets, things like this. Again, it's a single stat that does something that kind of really changes
damage
how
to
the
close
unique
enemies.
works, right? You're going to get all the different procs and different effects by chaining to more enemies
Storm
more
Strike
often.
chains 2 additional
You can also see
targets,
here
muito
that the
bom.
upper end of that
Mais
damage
2 to
that you can
basic
get is
skills, de
going up from
2 a
150%
4, né?
to
Ao invés de
200,
só mais
so
6
it's
pra
better.
Claw. Legal,
And
legal,
last but
cara.
not least, we got Storm's Companion. This one, I again wanted to highlight another new thing that we're doing, and I want to call it here is the lucky hit chance for the Pack Leader Spirit boon. So normally, we never really manipulate class mechanics, but here, this is Pack Leader. This isn't like a passive or a thing in the skill tree. This is in the Spirit boon, your class mechanic, and this increases
mecânica de
that lucky
classe
hit
Pack
chance
Leader
to
vai
get a
dar muito
reset
mais
on the cooldowns of all your companion skills.
chance de
So
lucky
again, this is
hit.
something that normally we don't get to manipulate, and now you'll be able to do, and I think
Aliás,
it's pretty cool.
vai ter muito mais chances de resetar o cooldown.
Is 2 words instead of 1.
Yeah,
Everything's getting up
Wolves
there.
attack speed.
everything.
Isso aí eu acho que
Changing.
nada demais.
All right, moving on to the Rogue.
Eagle Horn.
Let
Speed.
me see, what did I want to... I think
Penetrating
just pointing out
shot.
here, this was about moving the tempered recipe. The penetrating shot projectiles can cast twice. Again, another example of that. We're also giving you a bunch of skill ranks to penetrating shot. Again, this is a way that we're adding just like raw power and damage in ways that aren't in the unique effect. So these stats on these things can be very strong out the gate. And then again, tempering and masterworking just makes these go really, really high. Next, Word of a Con. This one was a really silly, fun one that we liked.
Ultimate damage,
you see there,
chance to
the one I'll
rain
point out. Well, one
arrows,
is the ultimate
arrow
damage.
cooldown
Actually, ultimate skill
reduction,
damage for the Rogue
imbuement.
is kind of a premium because they have that Paragon node that makes it turn into multiplicative
Esse
damage
amuleto
for
a
your
galera
skills,
usa pra
so
fazer
that's
aquele
actually pretty
ultimate
neat.
do
It's also
Rogue.
way higher
Chuva de
value than
flechas
normal.
lá.
Also, the chance for Rain of
Ele vai dar
Arrows waves to
250,
cast twice.
assim, de
So
219 a
normally we
300
don't do, chance to double cast
% de
on
dano do
ultimates,
ultimate,
but
cara.
again, uniques get to break the rules. So now you've got juiced up Rain of Arrows cooldown reduction, they can cast twice, and they hit way harder on the Rain of Arrows themed unique. So again, really
Nossa,
trying to bring out
90% de
the
chance
theme
do
and
Rain
the
of
fantasy
Arrow
of these uniques
ser
in the
jogado
stats,
duas
in the
vezes.
effects, to really create something
Cacetada,
special.
velho do céu.
And next, Saboteur Signet. I was running this in Season 4. I'm a little sad that I'm going to be doing something else in Season 5, but I loved my stun grenade build. But here you can see a bunch of grenade damage, obvious theme for the grenade build. We're also giving you a lot of your stun grenade size here. And then again, a new
Agora não vai funcionar só com o Flurry, vai funcionar com qualquer core skill para você jogar stun grenade.
Right? So usually release a cluster of these things. So now
aumentaram, aliás, a chance de lucky hit da granada, 235% de dano de granada, de 203 a 275. Aumenta o tamanho da área da stun grenade.
It's casting a core skill, throws stun grenades, so it's a lot more generically applicable.
É como eu falei, isso aí não vai ser build meta não, mas pelo menos vai ser uma build interessante para fazer uns testes.
Next, Necromancer, the big one I wanted to point out here. We're going to be showing both of the Blood Surge uniques and how they've been updated and they combo with each other. We have a stat here that Blood Surge drains more times from elites. So to be clear, this is the drain, not the explosion. But the drain does feed into the explosion damage, and there's a lot of like synergy and things based on draining enemies. So now, one of the problems that Blood Surge has always had is when you're fighting a single target or a boss, you only drain one enemy, and then you're not getting your like explosion damage up. But now you're going to be draining multiple times from those elites, so you're going to get more life back and other procs when you drain.
Isso aí vai ser é o que eles estão falando, né? Eles querem buffar a build de sangramento.
Next, Death
Sangramento não, build de sangue.
We also added another thing that combines with the other unique where you're getting essence per enemy drained, right? And so now, as you drain enemies for the explosion, you're going to be getting more essence back to cast the skill and spam it more.
Nos minions.
We're also giving you a bunch of ranks to Blood Surge, which, you know,
Caramba, olha o dano, velho, de 9 a 13. Foi pra 2.000, de 974 pra 2.000.
Already a giant buff to this. But then also you can see that, you know, the numbers also went up on this as well.
Forte,
so it's just going to be pretty significant.
Não, mas não é possível.
Can't wait.
And last but not least, Greaves of the Empty Tomb. This is your Sever unique. Lots of stuff to point out here. One is you have multiple inherents. So, you know, normally you can only get 3 max of 8 charges, you get more here.
Tá errado aquele número lá, tenho certeza. De 21 a 27 de dano. Ah, para. Foi pra de 7.000 pra 28.000. Não era só aquilo lá, não. Era um pouquinho maior. Os números.
We also give you ranks to Reaper's Pursuit. So this is really about just like moving and grooving, like going around. One thing I want to point out here as well is this new aspect of Creeping Mist that came in, and you can combine this with the Greaves of the Empty Tomb. So this new aspect, you know, we heard that Necro players want mobility, and boy, did we give you mobility. So what this does is when you evade during, first of all, you get evade cooldown reduction, so you evade more. But when you evade during Blood Mist, you travel twice as far, and both when you enter and exit Blood Mist, it resets your evade cooldown. And one of the things that makes this crazy, where we might actually be crazy, and I hope we don't have to revisit this, but we're going to see, is that reset of your evade cooldown counts for all of your charges of evade. So what this means is, and we have a video, is that you can evade 5 times, then evade in Blood Mist, and then evade 5 more times.
Minha nossa senhora!
You're evading in Blood Mist, and you're leaving behind that desecrated ground everywhere and
skating
just around.
You know?
Yep.
It's like a nice skating rink.
So every time you cast Blood Mist, you're going to be getting 10 evades. It's silly and hilarious.
Caramba, você vai conseguir ficar só dando evade, inclusive dá pra dar o evade com Blood Mist. Aí quando você casta o Blood Mist, você recupera os evade, dá evade de novo.
So that's kind of our preview of our uniques and kind of what's coming into the game. Again, we're pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Professor Adam Jackson, take a bow. That is that is incredible.
And again, that's not even everything. There's a lot of stuff coming to other uniques that are at that level.
Patch notes after the stream, we will be showing a comparison of every single unique and their changes from Season 4 to Season 5. So you can go in there and check out all those changes. But that was a great overview of all those changes. That is really, really exciting. This brings us to our Q&A portion of the show.
Q&A acabou. Agora só vou responder as perguntas, cara.
So we've been following along in Twitch chat, and we've picked out a bunch of questions, and we're going to kick it off, tossing it over to Mr. Dan Tangway. How do reward choices work in multiplayer parties for Infernal Hordes? Does the leader choose the reward for everyone, or can each player choose?
All right, so yeah, let's talk about this. In the Infernal Hordes, when you're collecting Burning Ether, each individual collects their own Burning Ether. And we did this for the very reason that you're asking questions about.
Manos, antes e depois dos itens únicos, meu Deus. O avô tá insano, cara.
What somebody else gets to first or what the party leader wants. So every individual party member will have their own choice of rewards.
Awesome.
Nossa, velho.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
did I not say
Eldrick? Com
Eldrick, I won't forget you. Thank you, Adam. Eldrick, thank you for that question.
Of course, you're going to be a stickler for that.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing to call out because
our ladder behind you.
Because our next question is from Dartless.
Or actually, I think we have a question here on the lower third, which is this one. We've gotten a lot of these questions, so I do want to actually address this one. This is when we're going to hear more about Vessel of Hatred, because you know we just had the Spiritborn reveal. We showed off the Spiritborn. I will note that we also are going to be at Gamescom.
Chega de trabalhar por hoje.
That came out this morning. The Spiritborn will be playable at Gamescom. So if you go to the Xbox booth, you'll be able to play it there. So if you're attending that show, it'll be really awesome. There's actually going to be more news coming out at that time. So of course, tune in. And I will say, like, you guys have only heard a very small
there's a lot
fraction of
the tip of the jungle.
Of Vessel of Hatred. So we're really excited for Gamescom. So you guys will hear more then, so stay tuned.
Yeah, grab your tickets to come to Gamescom because we'll be there.
Tech, já falei, é só você colar no clã lá que a gente faz 500 mil do Uriel, 500 mil do Ariel. No começo de temporada a gente arregaça, velho.
This is a question from Dartless, who is saying, we can temper uniques now. Did I mishear that? Maybe that was a mistake being said. So Adam, if you want to speak
100% clear.
that.
Cannot temper uniques. We want them to be different in that they do not engage with that system, at least for now. But no, you're going to be, what I wanted to say or be clarify on is that you can get tempering affixes on uniques. Like they'll just drop with those affixes or whatever, but you can't like go to the blacksmith and manipulate them in that way. You can't temper them.
Gotcha. Cool, cool. Thanks for
Não,
clarifying.
não vai dar para temperar únicos, mas eles podem dropar com item com
It's Doffy has a question
afixos
for
de
Dan
tempera.
Kangway. Are there any plans to continue iterating on the Infernal Hordes in the future since it's a permanent addition? Are there going to be more boons and banes coming?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, just to reiterate what you had pointed out there, this is an Eternal Realm feature that's going to appear in the game forevermore. And so this is just the first version of it. I mean, you think back to what Helltide was in the base game and how we've iterated on that over time to get it to where it is. We're going to continue investing similar levels of effort into the Infernal Hordes too. And so boons and banes is something we heard a lot about feedback during the PTR. And so we absolutely want to make more improvements to the boons and banes. And so stay tuned. That's not going to hit in season 5. But we'll figure out where we can get it in future seasons.
Maravilha.
Awesome. Great to hear that we're
Vai
going to
continuar
continue
melhorando
tinkering on that feature in the
as Ordens
seasons to
Infernais.
come. I've got a really interesting question from Mano_imp with regards to those Mano_imp.
We know Mano_imp.
With regards to the damage increase per class resource.
Sure.
They're asking, is the Spiritborn getting 1% damage at 7 points if it's their main stat, just because they have a lower amount of weapons?
Yeah, TBD.
TBD.
I don't want to go into math on Spiritborn yet, but they'll be getting similar treatment to all the other stuff. All of this is kind of evergreen, so.
Awesome. Luke Wee. When will we see the overhaul of the Paragon system? Would you consider removing the Paragon limit?
There are going to be changes to Paragon, but we aren't talking about those changes yet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
TBD.
TBD.
TBD. Stay tuned. Love this name. Chickenwing929.
Love it.
Can the reputation rewards for Season of the Infernal Hordes be earned on only one character or all your seasonal characters?
I believe it's all characters, similar to like what we had for season 4. So you can actually go back in and just play like, hey,
Você pode ganhar recompensa com todos os personagens que você criar.
That's really the question, let's be honest.
Really, that's truly the question. Yes, you can get.
Pretty sure it's
additional-
character specific, so you can,
yeah.
Nice. Systematic 5K, Adam Jackson. Will our existing uniques be updated with these new unique changes?
Yeah, we get this every round that we update them. It's the same rules as always, which is the unique power, when we update that, is your existing uniques will get that, right? So when we increase your damage range or whatever, that's going to get. But the stats, those are going to be legacy on any items that exist. So you're going to have to refarm your unique to get the new stats that are on them. Awesome. And now that's kind of the way that they're going to work going forward, unless we say otherwise.
Yeah, it's just how things work under the hood from when we do changes on them. So.
Yeah.
Nice. Pudge_BP. Are there any plans for clan rework / improvements?
I know there are some changes coming for some social features. We're just not ready to talk about them now, but you guys will hear about them soon.
Awesome. This one's kind of a design philosophy question for Adam Jackson.
Sure.
Evans423 wants to know, how future-proof is this system of static uniques when adding new / better tempering effects and new content?
How future-proof are static uniques when adding new tempers? Let me think. Semi, right? Because like I think it is something where if we add like new tempers or new affixes or whatever, we will probably need to go back and update uniques that we wanted to apply to and make it work again. Our hope is that these uniques are going to be pretty like future-proof in that they're going to be very meaty in the amount of power that they give you. They're also extremely thematic, but I think we do reserve the right, like if we find a new idea for existing passive or existing tempering that is introduced to the game and we want to put it on, we can do that. I will say also one thing that we want to do more is like just come up with really crazy new ones that aren't even really tempering recipes, but just like crazy effects, right? Like Blood Howl grants stealth, or you drain more with your, blood surge, stuff like that. So I would expect we'll probably be updating them as we go forward. Not probably as dramatically as this all at once, but I foresee this probably likely, yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Legal.
Always tinkering, always updating.
Yeah, speaking of which, about tempering, one thing that we forgot to mention, and I know we mentioned it at the PTR stream last time. I'm sorry, my earpiece just keeps falling off. So it looks like I'm like scratching my ear, but I'm not. The greater I know there was a lot of like feedback after season 4 regarding tempering and potentially bricking items. And one update that we talked about during the PTR stream, and I want to mention, it wasn't in PTR, but is in season 5 specifically, is greater affixes will actually get additional temper rerolls on them based on the greater affix, quality of what they are. So for like greater affix 1-star ones, you'll end up getting 1 additional temper reroll, and then it grows by how many stars that there are. So that is going in season 5. So and we mentioned it last stream. I just wanted to reiterate it because I actually forgot. We should have mentioned it again. So.
Yeah, great to mention that, Adam. That's awesome. We've got a easy one here from Z Weapons. What is a mythic unique? There was a purple item.
Yeah, you can tune into our last stream for it. But yeah, basically what was Uber Uniques is what people call them. It's basically like, the really best items in the game that have like perfect stats and everything. We rebranded them to Mythic Uniques. They now have their own special color, special beam when they drop. They just got a whole treatment to really make them feel like the penultimate items that they
Super
are in the
juicy.
game. Yeah,
that's awesome. Sophie0257, are they going to make it so that we can pre-download the update, or will it be available only on the 6th? That's a great question.
That's a good
Based
question.
off
Vai ter pré-download
feedback
do
from
update
season 4
agora.
launch, the patch will be available to download roughly an hour before Season of the Infernal Hordes launches, so that season goes live at 10 a.m.
Uma hora
and
só?
roughly an hour
Ah,
before,
não.
You'll be able to pre-download the patch to get into the game and get ready for the season.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are probably going like, why not multiple days and things like that. We're getting there. We're trying. But no, it's we got a lot of feedback about how things started immediately on the you could download and actually start the season. And of course, we want to make sure that people can be as prepared as possible. So 1 hour before the actual season starts, you should be able to actually download and get that all prepared. So as soon as the season, the time for the season begin, which is roughly 10 a.m. Pacific on the day of, you can just jump in without needing to download. So
Skull MTV, hey, great job, thanks. Any plans to rework masterworking, in brackets, higher cost, but you can choose upgrades and tempering to make these systems have less RNG?
Nothing to announce at this time. We definitely have heard the feedback. We are starting with the first step of one of the things that we know feels really bad for players. I got how do I say? The more greater affixes you have on an item, the higher stress and investment you have to make it work the way that you want. So we are relaxing that, make it a little bit easier. Another thing that we're thinking about that's a little lighter is the tempering recipes, making them have 3 on average instead of 4 or more. Something that we're talking about moving towards, but nothing of overhauling the system and doing a major change at this time that we have to announce.
Cool. Thanks, Adam. Dan Tangway from Holy Smokes. Their name isn't for Holy Smokes. Their name is.
Their name was Dan. I thought it was Dan Tangway asking a question, and I was like, wait, what?
No. Their name is Frodo Bolson, but all the O's are zeros. How does the Infernal Hordes work in groups? Do you need only one compass per group?
So the Infernal Hordes, you only need 1 compass per group in order to be able to get in. Yeah.
Sweet, just like Nightmare Dungeon sigils. Awesome. Yep. All right, Ravask. Any news on reworked Nightmare Dungeons?
Nothing
for
announce,
today.
Yeah.
Nothing to announce today.
Yeah, nothing to announce today.
Sweet. Green Zombie Studios. Can we expect cool new transmogs in Season 5 from salvaging items?
I am not sure. I know, the Season 5 does
Pergunta, quem liga pra transmog, pô?
new legendary aspects.
Tô brincando. É legalzinho uns transmog, mas o cara quer saber se vai ter mais transmog. Não.
Into Season 5. So there's a lot of more the back-end type of stuff.
Eu acho que assim, o RNG é importante, mas é importante também eles darem um certo controle pra gente.
We can, actually. There are a couple of new uniques in Hell that you can earn that will have all new looks to them that you can salvage
there you
and
go.
use as a cosmetic. Yep.
Bam, there you go.
Dan, the savior from Albany.
There you go. Frodo Bolson. Hot pancakes. Are there still plans for rare and magic items? I guess in terms of like a rework or changing their functionality in any way.
Yeah, I'd say nothing to announce today for that, yeah.
Cool. Nice. All right. Checking through Mac and D's. Can we expect skill trees or support gems to change the way skills work?
Can we expect skill trees or support gems to change the way the skill works? I mean, we're not doing any skill tree overhaul right now in Season 5. I do think we have talked a bit on the team about having a desire of the upgrades for skills being like more impactful and really impactful. Nothing to announce today, but it is something that is on our
Todas essas
radar.
perguntas eles vão responder
that we talk about a lot on the team
na
is
temporada
like the
6.
upgrade for the
Ele
Barbarian,
perguntou aí se tem
originally
planos de
designed
fazer com que a árvore de skill seja mais impactante, tenha mais modos de você mudar elas e tal, mas vamos fazer isso na temporada 5.
That part hasn't really played out, I think, as well, because the pace of our game is so fast. But one of the upgrades for Kick, especially I remember in the early beta, like way before, maybe it was alpha even, Kick, it converts Kick from this cooldown-based geometry skill into just a powerhouse where it just spends all your resource and does a buttload of damage to an enemy. And it was like one-shotting world bosses and stuff back then. Like it was hilarious.
I think I remember that.
But the skill still has that upgrade, but I reference that upgrade a lot because I think it's really cool when you can convert a skill to like, used to be cooldown and now isn't, or used to be about this utility and now it's just damage, or vice versa, where it like really changes what a skill does. We think it's really cool. It definitely would be a lot of work to like do that to every skill, but I think it's something that's worth talking about and pursuing. So it is on our radar of something to do, but nothing to announce today for it.
Awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of our Q&A. So I want to give a huge thank you to Adam and Dan for answering all those questions.
Adam squared.
Adam squared, back in action.
Dan.
Hey, just like the PTR stream. You guys are back.
There you go.
Screw those Joes. Got them.
Yeah. Eliminate. No, I'm just kidding.
And that brings us to the end of our Season the Infernal Hordes developer update stream. Just a few notes before we close out the stream.
Já, cara.
Just want to take a moment to thank everyone for tuning into our Spiritborn showcase a few weeks back.
Yeah.
It was really cool to show off that new class. It was such a huge moment for the team. So really want to thank you all for coming to check that out. And if you want to play the Spiritborn in person, as Adam mentioned earlier, we are going to be at Gamescom. So get your tickets, come to Gamescom in Cologne, Germany, and
Ué, cortou. Oxi.
just went up through the roof. But speaking of Spiritborn, you can pre-purchase Vessel of Hatred today and instantly...
Can they hear audio?
Oh, can everybody hear us? Twitch chat?
Foi.
Okay, we're good now. We're good now.
Okay,
We're good.
awesome. All right, thank you, chat, for keeping us up to date. Speaking of the Spiritborn, you can pre-purchase Vessel of Hatred today to get instant access to some items in-game before the expansion goes live this October. For Season of the Infernal Hordes, this season goes live on August 6th at 10 a.m. The patch will be available for pre-download roughly an hour before, and 10 a.m. is in Pacific time, for anyone wondering. Patch will be available for pre-download about an hour before the season goes live, so you can get in and get ready for the season to start. The 1.5.0 patch notes are going to go live after this stream for Season 5. So for anything we talked about across the stream today, that'll be available. And
see all the uniques and everything.
Yeah, check out those GIFs. They're pretty spiffy. Team worked pretty hard on those. We also had the Season of the Infernal Hordes deep dive blog go live earlier this week, so a ton of information there as well. Stick around after the stream because we're going to be rating some Diablo content creators, so go and check them out. For Adam and Mr. Dan Tangway in Albany, thank you guys so much for joining us for this developer update stream today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really awesome to go through all the changes. And from all of us here, thank you so much to everyone at home for watching and checking out the stream. And we will see you all in Sanctuary.
Yeah. Uniques.
Woo!
Maravilha, mano. Muita coisa boa, velho. Muita coisa boa mesmo. As mudanças nos únicos, pelo jeito, vão deixar eles competitivos com os itens lendários, que hoje em dia, né, atualmente estão muito mais poderosos. E, rapaz, aquela UAV, que é aquilo, meu irmão? Nossa senhora. Aquilo lá, numa build de redemoinho, vai ser fantástico. Mas é isso, pessoal. Lembrando, estaremos de volta na temporada 5, terça-feira que vem. Hoje à noite não sei se tem live, se tiver a gente joga um pouquinho de Remnant. E nos vemos então. Agora elas vão ficar aqui fazendo coisas... Vou mostrar alguns criadores de conteúdo, não vou assistir isso não. Mas enfim, pessoal, no geral, muito boa a apresentação. Tô esperando agora. Agora eu tô um pouco mais animado com essa temporada 5. Nos vemos então na próxima live. Se não for ter live hoje à noite, talvez amanhã à tarde ou amanhã à noite temos live, beleza? Um abraço pra todo mundo, muito obrigado pela presença e pela companhia durante essa live. E até a próxima, pessoal. Falou, valeu!